If you start with just exploring your environment and becoming aware of where your life is, that will help you determine what your why should be, what it could be, what's truly important to you. Don't focus on the 100 things you got to do. Find the one thing that will keep you going. The fear of regrets is actually a lot more powerful than the regrets themselves. Write your eulogy from your own perspective, and you're the only one in the audience, and see how that changes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear. I'm really thrilled you're here today because I'm going to have a really fun, exciting discussion today with my new friend, Jeff Goodrich. We share a lot in common about how we overcame, specific challenges unique to us through endurance sport. But more specifically for Jeff, he did that with the help of his dog, Duder. And Jeff is the author of the popular book, Dude and Duder, How My Dog Saved My Life. And Jeff has captivated readers with his unique insights and strategies for personal growth and empowerment. His journey started in midlife and includes a remarkable personal milestone, including losing 70 pounds, completing several marathons and ultra marathons, and repairing his marriage of 30 plus years. And those experiences shaped his understanding of resilience, determination, and the power of personal transformation, something that deeply resonates with me, and I know it can resonate with all of us. So his journey started when he first took his dog, Duder, for a walk, something so simple. And that step led to all of the transformation that was to follow, which led to a complete overhaul of his life. And, so his dog saved his life, and that earned Duder the title of being such a good boy. How you doing, Jeff? Good to see you here, man.
I'm doing great. Thanks, Adam. It's good to be on the show with you.
Yeah. Well, the thing I love about your story is the fact that it was just a small, simple action that led to a massive transformation. And we hear a lot of times, in our world about the idea that we have to take this massive action to start. And it becomes overwhelming for a lot of us. I know that just thinking of what it's going to take to get to those big goals that we have, or that I have, it just takes it's overwhelming to think of that effort. But this was just a small step of walking your dog that led to so much transformation. And I want to dig into that a bit. So can you kind of share your story, how you got to that place of where you took your dog out, Duder, for the first time?
Well, let's go back to when I was 49 years old. When I was 49, I was not in a good place in my life. I had been married for a very long time, but at the time, looking back, I was living what I call the standard American lifestyle, which includes watching a lot of TV, sitting on the couch every night, eating that bowl of ice cream every night, blaming everybody else for anything in my life. I was overweight. I was unhappy. Didn't like my job. Everything felt bad. And I was just plain bored with my life. And one way I also like to look at this is when I looked in the mirror, I had what I call this major cringe factor, because I did not like that guy looking back at me. And it was just not a good place. And I had thoughts through the years of, I need to do something. I need to change, whatever. But nothing ever stuck. Nothing ever amounted and turned into anything at all. So I was 49 and I decided to get a dog. Talked my wife into getting this dog. And he's a Vizsla. Got him, he's about 9 weeks old. And Vizslas are very active dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed to go out for a walk. And my wife said, well, if you're going to get a dog, then you got to take care of him. You're going to clean up his poop and you're going to take him for a walk. So that first day, and I look back, is that I put a leash on him. I opened the front door and we took that first step. You can even say it started with the first step out the front door, not even just the first walk. It had to start somewhere. And I can tell the story that, I went out on for this walk and I had this aha moment and all my life's going to change. But no, that's not how things worked. We just went for a walk around the block. But what did happen, Adam, is that the next day we did it again. And then the next day we did it again. So I had a new pattern, a new habit being developed in my life, something that I was not doing before, something new. And then I turned 50. midlife crisis, regrets. Oh, what have I done with my life? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? All of that came top of mind. And I spent a good year just walking Deuter every day, worrying about what have I done with my life? What's going on here?
So that was all going through your head at that time.
It's all
like
going
just
through my head.
Yeah.
And Deuter became my mentor and my therapist, and I would talk to him, and he would listen to me, and he was always by my side. But we're just had this pattern of going for a daily walk, and I started to feel some forward motion. And there was 3 things that really happened during that year of walking Deuter every day. So I'm 50 years old, I'm overweight, things are not good in my life. 3 things was, 1, I became aware of it. Before, I wasn't necessarily aware that I knew I just wasn't happy. And when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like the guy, but I wasn't aware of everything that was wrong in my life. And I started to evaluate my environment, and just became awareness was right there. And I remember at one point, the second thing was that I made a choice to do something about it. I didn't know what to do. I really had no clue how I'm going to change all of this, but I made a choice to do it. I remember looking at Deuter and saying, Deuter, we're going to do something different here. And, him looking back up at me and agreeing, yes, do something different, right? And then the third thing was that along this time, I explored and figured out my why. I had to have some reason why I needed to change my life. Is it for my kids? I have 4 grandkids. Was it for my grandkids? Is it for my wife? Is it for me? Whatever. So my why and your purpose and why you need to do something different evolves and will constantly evolve over time throughout your life. And it still to this day changes for me. But those 3 things really came top of mind when I'm walking Deuter. And then about 51, I began actually doing some stuff, changing my environment, taking action. And I'll describe some of the first few things that I did. One of the first things that had the biggest impact for me was I canceled my TV subscription. I mean, I had satellite TV and I was watching it all the time, and the whole habit of sitting on the couch every night, watching TV, whatever it is. I canceled it. I just stopped watching TV and I changed my inputs. So instead of watching TV, I'm reading books and I'm listening to podcasts. So you just change your inputs. You have different ideas, different things coming into your mind. Because when you think about TV, mainstream TV, between the mainstream news, between the commercials, between the shows, I mean, they're telling you how to live your life. And that was one thing I needed to do, was live my own life. So that was a very impactful thing. I just can't. And to this day, my wife and I will sit down and we'll stream a movie every once in a while, but I do not watch TV. I just don't watch it.
Yeah, that's such a powerful move too. Yeah. And I like that idea that this transformation doesn't just come from things that you add to your life. Like, I'm going to add exercise, I'm going to add a healthy diet. It comes from things you subtract too, like the things that maybe aren't serving you. I remember I did something similar, back in 2015. When I decided enough was enough with the news. I didn't go as far as to cancel my TV subscriptions or anything, but I canceled the news. I mean, I just stopped watching it because it wasn't serving anymore, and I stopped contributing. And that in and of itself it's such a dramatic transformation. I mean, it really helps you to reshape what's important in your priorities in your life. Yeah. So I noticed by, the 3 things that you did, like, you becoming aware. So it's almost like you're waking up, and then you make the choice, and then you find the why. I noticed that in that, what strikes me is that, a lot of people try to start with why. And, it's even a Simon Sinek thing, is like, start with your why. But I noticed that your why, you almost started doing, and then the why appeared. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit? Is that intentional, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if you start with just exploring your environment and becoming aware of where your life is, that will help you determine what your why should be, what it could be, what's truly important to you. If your environment and everything that you're doing is focused on watching TV and the news and the sports and that, well, I mean, are you messing up your relationship? Are you messing up your relationship with your kids and all of that? And so that awareness in that evaluating your environment helped me define what my why could be, what it should be, what I really want it to be. And when I started, my why was as simple as, well, I kind of want to do it for my kids and my wife and my immediate family. I want them to see me change some things in my life. But that's evolved over time, and we can talk a little about that, but it's evolved a little bit. So now my why right now, my primary person is me. If I can take care of myself, get my mind in a good place, then I'm better able to be an example for my wife and my kids and my grandkids. So my why is really about me. I do it for me. This is my life. This is my journey. But secondarily, it's all of that. But I have to start with me. I had to do it for me. So
that's a really important point, and I hope people capture that, because there's a certain feeling, or maybe that hits people in a way that, like, oh my gosh, focusing on yourself first, how selfish. But I think that if we're going down the line of reasoning that you're talking about there, which is very important, that we're no good to anybody else if we're not taking care of ourselves first. I mean, the old adage about putting your oxygen mask on first, which, if you remember the Alaska Airlines flight recently, I mean, that's a very real thing that we might have to face one day, apparently. But but that whole idea, I think, is really important, and one that we neglect to our detriment. So I know I neglected that for years when I was drinking. I was like, I can't go to AA. I don't have time. I have to take care of my family, but I wasn't taking care of myself, and so that wasn't happening. So that I like that idea of the why is always evolving. And do you think, I think people may get trapped in that idea of our why or our purpose needs to be static. Like, I want to achieve this. So if everything doesn't line up the way that I need it to, it's a failure. So in your terms, can you speak a little bit more to the evolution of the why? Is that something that's still evolving for you? And what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, it's still and constantly evolving. And so I am 56 right now, Adam, right? I just turned 56. And so this journey started about 5 years ago. So in the last 5 years, as I'm essentially transforming my lifestyle, all kinds of new things coming in, the why is going to evolve all over the place. At some point in my journey here, my daily walks, I remember simply deciding one day to start running. And I went for about 100 yards, 200 yards before I ran out of breath. But I had the thought, maybe I could do this. And so then over time, my daily walks started turning into daily runs. And then, I remember running the 2 miles. 2 miles without stopping the first time was huge for me, right?
That's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. And then I started running some half marathons, signing up for races. And then I can do this. Maybe I could do a marathon. I signed up for a couple marathons and then sign up for the ultra marathon. So how that ties back into my why is, why do I run? So I had to explore that. What's the purpose of the running? How does it influence anything else that I'm working on? So over time, why am I running an ultra marathon? Why am I doing a 60K, right? Why am I running a 50 miler? So the why has evolved. And then the why evolved into, for my wife. My wife and I were married at 18. So we started very young. I got my girlfriend pregnant in high school. That's how it all started. We were married right out of high school. And, then I fell into the trap of what the world tells me what you're supposed to do. You go to school, you get a job, take care of your family. Stay in the lines here. You can't go out there. And so I had 50 years of the world, society, family, everyone telling me how I'm supposed to live my life. And so then when I started exploring things outside of those lines, why? Why should I go out those lines? And so, the why is just constantly evolving. I have to ask that question all the time. Why should I do this? Why should I write a book? Why should I publish this? Why should I go on a podcast with Adam, right?
Right.
Anything like that. So,
Well, I'm glad the why there took you to you should go on the podcast because now you're here and that that's a good deal. But so looking at the kind of 49 years, so that's 30 years from 18 to 48 or 49, which if I'm doing my math right, which but w- how how did the weight of life affect you during that time? Like, were you feeling misaligned? I mean, you said you didn't really develop the awareness until you were 49. Was that just like a big wake up call, or was it like, was it a gradual thing that you just didn't notice that you weren't feeling good about, or how was that 30 years leading up to that point?
Oh, it's all gradual. I mean,
Yeah.
100% gradual.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school. I got a college degree. I got a job. I can look back and say that my life and my career with my kids and grandkids and all this has been great. It's all really about perspective. I can honestly say that. I've had a pretty good career. It's not like I'm poor. I make halfway, as far as, middle class. I do okay, right? It's all good. I own my house, things like that. So I'm well above the norm, I would probably say. But when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like the guy I saw because I was overweight. I was not. I had limited beliefs. I only believed that I'm supposed to do this and stay in these lanes. I can't do anything outside of my job and then make sure that I'm contributing as what I can to the 401k so that I can retire at this particular age and all those things that society is telling me how I'm supposed to live my life. One of the chapters in my book is when I started running and Duder and I would go out, we began the process of going out early in the morning. And I would have to wear a headlamp out on the trail. And I love trail running. That's my focus. But we'd go out on the trail, be pitch black, I'd put my headlamp on, I'd let Duder off the leash, let him take off wherever he wants to go, and I'd just start running. In the lesson, this just really got me thinking that as the headlamp is there, I can only see what that headlamp is showing me, which is basically 10 feet in front of me on the trail. Couldn't see anything above, couldn't see anything beyond that, couldn't see anything on the side. And I remember being out on the trail one day thinking, okay, this is what my life is. There's only what I can see that this headlamp is showing me. I need to put a different headlamp on. And I call it my life headlamp. So I was limited. If you tie that to limiting beliefs, what's possible? All I knew what was possible was what that headlamp was showing. So if I wanted to put a bigger one on so that I can see what's possible in front of me, what's to the right of me, what's to the left of me, what's behind me, what's possible. So this is just one of those simple analogies of, okay, put a different headlamp on. I put a different life headlamp on to make what's possible much brighter and possible for me.
Yeah. So when you started running, what were the results you began to see in your life? I know it changed your health, obviously. Did you see other changes that were that happened as a result of that?
Well, first, before I started running, I didn't start running until I had lost a lot of the weight. I mean, I was 70, 75 pounds overweight, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want
so you lost that weight with just walking, and how did you lose the weight?
Well, so when I started actually taking action, the next thing that I did, I canceled TV. The next thing I did was I changed my nutrition. And I don't use the term diet. I hate the term diet because it implies a temporary thing. I didn't go into this to go on a diet and lose weight because then most people will just go back to their old habits. It's just a temporary thing. But no. I had to change my lifestyle, so I changed my nutrition. And again, it doesn't have to be drastic. Oh, well, starting today, I'm going to eat this and not this. Just take it one step at a time, one daily walk at a time. Start to do things like cut out the sugar as much as you can. Cut out the daily Dr. Pepper that I had. I just stopped drinking my Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper, man. Stop eating the bowl of ice cream before you go to bed and just stop eating before you go to bed. So just little things, one step at a time. And as a it's almost like I didn't necessarily go into this to lose weight, but just as a result of walking every day, changing my mindset, how I was viewing the world, and what my nutrition was, the weight just came off, just started to fall off. So then after I'd lost a lot of the weight, then I started doing the running. And through all this, Adam, I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and I'm reading a lot of books. And as you know, there's thousands of ideas out there. Do this thing every day. Do this one thing every day. Do this thing every day, right? And I remember at one point along the way on the journey here, I put a habit tracker app on my phone. And I made this list of all the habits I'm going to track. Oh, I'm going to do a cold shower every day. I'm going to meditate every day. I'm going to pray every day. I'm going to do this every day. And at one point, I had like 25, 30 things on this list that I'm going to do every day. And you just can't do that. So what happened was that I looked back on what had the most impact, and it was the daily walk. So that just simply became my anchor. No matter what, I don't care what's going on, I'm going to get my daily walk in. That's my anchor. That's my sign of success. So every day that I can get outside, do my walk or my run, I can look in the mirror and say, I have had a successful day. And so that just became my anchor. And, don't focus on the 100 things you got to do. Find the one thing that will keep you going. And for me, it was the walk. And it could be as simple as make your bed every day. It could be as simple as hug your wife every day. Whatever it is, make it that anchor that you do every single day, no matter what. And so that planted, that's where fear comes into play, Adam, here is that I'm scared to death that if I don't get that walk in, man, I'm a total failure. So that drives me.
That's interesting. And I like that perspective because now you're using fear as a fuel for yourself. You're using that to your advantage. I like that. Yeah. Can you touch on that a little bit more about how you do that?
So there's a couple of ways. So like I said, my walks turned into runs. And for a while there, I was running 7 days a week. I've since adjusted because I get a lot more miles in and I do it smarter now. So I do have at least one rest day. But on those rest days, I still get a walk in. You can still get your daily walk in. And as I was moving forward here, I've got forward motion, and I now, I'm running. I am starting to write a book. I'm starting to capture my own ideas into this book. So I'm writing every day. I'm thinking of, well, where can I take this? How can I help and inspire that person I used to be? And so that's where the running just keeps. It's just, I have to run every day. And if I don't, then it scares me that's when I become a failure. Now, one thing that keeps me going, and I have it written on my whiteboard, is fear of regrets. I hit 50 and had painful internal trauma about my regrets. Things that I did, things that I didn't do. And so I use fear to keep me going, because if I don't keep going and I stop this process and this journey that I'm on, I don't want regrets. So the fear of regrets is actually a lot more powerful than the regrets themselves. I can let my past regrets go. I've been able to process them. There's nothing I can do about them. Let's move on. But the fear of future regrets, if I don't publish this book, oh man, I'm going to have so many regrets. And I'm scared to death of that. I don't want to experience that anymore. So the fear of regrets is one of those things that keeps me moving forward.
Yeah, that's a fascinating concept because what I'm hearing there is that you have fears that are related to the past that you can't change. So there's no productivity in feeling that or in living into that fear. But there's a fear that's forward looking, that there's a fear of what we may of what we may become if we don't do X or if we keep doing Y, that should fuel us to change the behaviors to get to a different place. And so that fear can be productive. Am I understanding that
Yes,
framework
that's
correctly?
exactly right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a powerful way to really look at the way that fear might be fueling you, and maybe even turning it into a greater discipline. Hey everyone, I interrupt this program to introduce you to a powerful tool that will help you gain clarity on your vision and accelerate your growth and achievement. If you're listening to this show, it is likely that you have an exciting vision for your life. But the problem is that we often get caught up in the day to day. We get distracted. We face uncertainty, overwhelm, and self doubt. And as a result, the gap between where you are and where you want to be seems insurmountable. And that's why I created a framework for how you can turn your vision into strategic, disciplined action that will accelerate your results in the next 90 days. I call it the Vision Reflection Retreat. It is a 2-day solo excursion designed to reignite passion and adventure into your busy life and realign your focus toward your why. This is the very same framework that I use every 90 days to reflect on my own life and my vision and set my goals for the next quarter. And it has been a game changer. And the good news is that I'm giving away this Vision Reflection Retreat guidebook for free when you sign up for my newsletter. Simply go to flowoverfear.com/retreat and download your free guide and enjoy the journey.
And
Yeah.
Adam,
Go
that
ahead.
can be a daily thing too.
Yeah.
Let's take this, for example. I live in a small little town in Idaho, and we had a major storm going on yesterday. I woke up this morning. I can talk about my nightly routine and my morning routines, but I woke up early this morning and looked at my outside thermometer. It was about 17 degrees outside, 17 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind's blowing a little bit, got some fresh snow, and you go through the thought patterns of, well, I can't go out and run in this stuff. Why would I do that? It's too cold.
Right.
I'm going to go to bed. But I had the thought, if I don't, I'm going to regret it. If I don't go out for my little, it doesn't have to be a long run. I go in out for a 3-mile run, 30 minutes or so in the cold, but I take the dogs with me and we go out and I get back in success. But I use that daily. If I don't do it, I'm going to regret it. And I'm afraid of the regret. Fear of the regret.
Have you missed any days, or have you been able to maintain that habit for a period of time, or there have been days you've had to miss, or how has that looked?
There have been days that, yes, I've had to miss. There's circumstances and events that prevent some things happening, yes. If there's no events or anything, when I travel, I still make sure I get my runs and my walks in. I've walked 5 miles through an airport just because that was the only place we could run. When I travel, I pack my running gear, my running shoes, and I plan my routes, and I make sure I run every time I travel. It drives my wife crazy, but I still have to get my runs in.
Yeah. Well, I like that you shared that though too, because there's an element of there's staying consistent with it, but there's also those times where you just can't. Maybe it's not healthy to do it. Maybe it's not safe to do it. And so I guess giving yourself the grace if it doesn't happen, but also making sure that you do it when you, as much as you can, get that discipline. Sounds like it's important.
And there might be people that are listening to this saying, well, it's unhealthy to run every day. You're going to destroy your knees and, you got to take your rest days and all this kind of stuff. I have really discovered and firmly believe in the power of and the connection between the mind and your body. I have a daily mantra. One of my mantras is I'm a runner. And I have other things like I'm an author. And so I set these and I read them every morning and every night. And I believe that when my mind firmly believes that I am a runner, then it's going to make sure that my body is ready to run.
Yeah.
There's that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so important too, because in anything, to have your own conviction and your own mantras about things, conviction in your own, in what you want to do, whether if you're a runner, what have you, and you run every day, if you're doing something right, or if you're doing something that fills you up to the extent that it is like a daily habit, there are people that are going to be naysayers and say, "Oh, that is unhealthy." It's just the way it is. I can't throw a stick at people that or without hitting somebody that's going to tell you that we're doing something wrong, or like what you're saying on that is wrong. It's just, I guess it tells you that you're doing something right, I guess, if people are are telling you you're doing something wrong. And how is your dog still running with you? So has he kept up with you? Like have you do you take him out for a little bit and then go run the extra mile? What does that look like?
He and I have actually the same birthday. So,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So when we were looking for the litter of pups, we found some that were same birthday as me. And I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. And he just turned 7, and absolutely, he goes running with me every single day. I have this 3 years ago, for whatever reason, when I turned, I don't know, 54, I woke up on my birthday, November 21st, and looked in the mirror, said, it's my birthday. I'm gonna go back to bed. But then I looked in the mirror again and said, no, go out for your daily run. Who cares what day it is? And I went out for a 15-mile run. And I've now set that every year on my birthday, I go for a 15-mile run. And I take Duder with me. He has no problem doing 15, 20 miles with me. I mean,
that's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I love that. I wish that we had dogs that would be able to be off leash and like actually come back and not freak out and run away. But I have a lab that's really high energy, which is great, always going out. But we also have a pug. Pugs are not great runners.
So, put them in your backpack. Carry them with you. Right?
True. Yeah. Yeah, like a little Yoda, like right on our back. That'd be amazing. And I know you've mentioned, you talk a little bit about too your relationships and how they've improved through this process. How have those changed for you? What did you recognize about yourself that helped you to elevate the level of your relationships?
Well, I think you hit it on the head right there. What did I learn about myself? So when I look at the relationships in the past, it's so easy to blame everybody else. My wife said something to me. My wife did this, blah, blah, blah. It's all her fault, all her fault, whatever. But you have to start with my side of the relationship. And that's what I really explored. So when I started this whole journey here, I remember my daughter at one point saying to me, Dad, you should listen to this podcast. And I think I literally said, what's a podcast? I had no idea what a podcast even was, right? But the first podcast episode I listened to was Jocko Willink. And, he has a book called Extreme Ownership. And a lot of his stories about, hey, own what you do. And that really resonated with me at the time. Okay, it is my life. I need to own this. Well, let's look at this in the perspective of relationships. What am I doing to help or hurt this relationship? Oh, yeah, I am doing that. That's probably not helping. Oh, yeah, and could probably do that a little bit better. So I really, at the start of it, just focused on my side of it. What can I do different? And just had to just set aside whatever my wife's doing. I actually refer to her in my book as the blonde. So I call her the blonde. And that's how it started. And one thing that happened from that is my wife and I actually started listening to some of the same podcasts. I'd find a good one and I'd share it. She'd find a good one, she'd share it with me. And so over time, it takes time. I mean, nothing happens overnight. It takes time. But over a year, 2 years of her seeing me do different things in my life, seeing me treat our relationship differently, and then we started evolving together. So now we're on this journey very much so together because we're processing the same types of inputs and the content. She's now a yoga instructor. She teaches a lot of mindfulness stuff in yoga at a local studio, and that resonates with me. And so we're now moving together. It's been a good process. At the time when I was 49, she was ready to divorce me. I found out later on she had already been talking and putting plans in place to divorce me.
Oh, so, wow. That's so it's amazing how those changes that you're making and kind of taking ownership of them can reflect on growing stronger in a relationship over that time. I can definitely relate to that terms of my life, my relationship with my wife, where we've grown together instead of apart. And
this
yeah,
applies to your
that's
kids.
incredible.
This applies to
Yeah,
my kids as well,
yeah,
and my grandkids. What am I doing? What can I be doing? What should I be doing differently? So,
yeah. That's great. Um, so I want to talk to you about the name of the dude and duder. How did the name duder? Well, this is a chicken or egg thing. So which came first, duder or the dude? And
Duder
how did
came
those names come
first.
up? Okay,
Yep.
good.
When we were when we first got him, we needed a name. You needed a name for your dog, right? We were just exploring names and this and that, and somehow the name Duder came into my mind, and I remember, I think I mentioned it to my sister, saying, "Oh, I think we're going to name him Duder," and I think she said, "What a stupid name," and I thought, "Okay, then that's it." So there's no real story of where the name Duder comes from. I just thought it was a cool name, so
Yeah,
we named him Duder. Now, in my journey here of life transformation, obviously there's a lot of things going on. I mean, yeah, I lost weight, I did all these things, but there's so many little things that I incorporated, daily mantras, spending a little bit of time doing breath work and meditation and some of these kinds of things. But what I discovered is that I needed to create a different version of me. The old Jeff, 50 years old, wasn't wasn't making the cut here. I needed a new version. And that's how Dude came about. Dude is the different version of Jeff. And that's what I say to myself all the time in regards to fear, is I'm afraid that my old self, that old Jeff, old habits start creeping back in here. And I have to ask myself, well, what would Dude do? Would Dude do that? You know? And so that's kind of how the Dude came about. Plus it's good branding, Dude and Duder.
absolutely. Yeah. And if you do get another dog, though, I would highly advocate for the name Lebowski or Mr. Lebowski or something like that. That would be great.
People have asked me about
Great
that,
compliment.
and at the time when we named Duder, I had never even seen that movie, but
Oh, really? Yeah, that would complete the circle, so to speak. And I know you've faced some challenges with with other, like with epilepsy and seizures and things like that in your own life, and you talk on that. And the importance of having a service animal related to that kind of thing as well. Has Duder been a resource for you on that front? If you don't mind me kind of asking that, and what role do you think that animals can play with regard to other people who might be going through similar challenges?
There's a story behind why I got a Vizsla. Duder's a Vizsla puppy. Back when I was in high school and early 20s, I started to have epileptic seizures, and I was never able to figure out why. What do you do when you're that age and you have a seizure? You go to the doctor. What does the doctor do? Well, let's give you an MRI, see if you got any tumors going on in there. Oh, there's no tumors. Here, take this drug. That's how it went down for me. And looking back, and yes, I've kind of developed a little bit of a cynical view of the standard medical treatment that we provide today, because nobody asked me what my lifestyle was, what I'm eating, how am I sleeping, any of that. It was just, you have a seizure, here, you have epilepsy, take this drug. And I went through 10 different drugs and got to the point where the side effect of these medications they were giving me were even worse than just having a seizure. At one point, probably 15 years ago, I was over at a friend's house. We went over for just an evening dinner, and they had a Vizsla puppy, a Vizsla dog. And when we walked in the house, this dog was all over me. He would not leave me alone, even no matter what the owners were saying. No, leave him alone, leave him alone. He was always right there, sniffing me, looking at me, wanting to get on my lap, and just constantly right there. And I didn't know why. But at some point during the evening, I felt a seizure coming on. And I was able to make my way. What I would do is I'd feel these coming on, and I went into the bathroom, closed the door, and had a seizure in the bathroom. Well, this dog followed me, knew I was having a seizure, barked, 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 let everyone know that there's something not right in here. They were able to come in and make sure I was okay in there. But just from walking in, that dog knew something was not right. And there's a lot of studies and theories on why that is. Maybe something that he could smell from me. But that's why I got a Vizsla, was from that story right there, and watching how these dogs can have this influence on people. A couple of organizations that I've started to follow are also, they're placing homeless shelter dogs with veterans that are suffering from PTSD. So just having that constant relationship with the dog, just, dogs love you no matter what. And Duder's always right there. He's always by my side. He always looking in on me and all that. So there's so many ways of how the dogs can play a role in my life and in society. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like every furry family member that we have is almost a service animal, because we have it just, just for me, just having our dog Lasso and Zeus, it's just nice to have that around, have them around. And
they are part of the family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they really are. And have you noticed that? So what kind of support is it kind of like Duder's there to let people know that you are having a seizure? Do they help you in any way, like through that process, just comfort, or how does that look for you?
Well, let's go back to me changing my nutrition. I think changing my nutrition, I haven't had a seizure for many, many years, right? I've had small episodes here and there, but when you start changing your nutrition, it has an impact on how your whole body and your brain functions. And essentially, I lost the weight on call it a ketogenic diet. I was on a low carb, high fat type of a diet, but however you want to refer to it. But the biggest impact was, I felt better, physically felt better. I lost the weight. But the biggest impact was just how my brain felt. It's like a brain fog was just gone for me. And that's probably not true for everyone, but because I had this history of seizures and something weird going on in my brain, it really affected me. So Duder has not necessarily been a seizure dog for me, because I don't have that issue anymore.
That's really good to hear. And I'm fascinated by the correlation between nutrition and the frequency or prevalence of seizures in your life, because I too followed a nutrition change. Like, it changed my relationship with nutrition, and I agree with you 100%. I don't like the term diet at all. We don't even talk diet in our house. It is a 4-letter word for us. It's a bad word for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is, yes, because it is a short-term thing, but also because it imprints terrible habits that lead you down the path of eating disorders and terrible results. So building a healthy relationship with nutrition, I think, is powerful. And I like that you said that it's different for everybody. Like, everybody has a different thing. So what works for Jeff might not work for Adam, or might not work for whomever might be listening. But it is, I feel like, and tell me if you agree or disagree, but I feel like this is one of those things where becoming self-aware of what works for you and what you find and what clears the brain fog and what gives you more energy and gives you more life, that's where you should be starting. Am I wrong about that?
Totally agree. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And we found that what works for me is very different than what works for my wife, right? Even the two of us together. So a low carb, high fat diet doesn't work very well for her, but it works great for me. And I've kind of adopted that as my lifestyle nutrition plan. One way I do it is, when people ask me, what do you eat? What do I say? What do I say to myself? Am I on a diet? What's my nutrition plan? And one thing that I learned, think about someone who's a vegan. Are they on a vegan diet? No, they are a vegan. Or I am a vegetarian. they're not on a vegan diet. So I had to adopt my own view of this. Well, am I on a keto diet? And so the term I use in my own mind is I am clean. So I try to focus on clean, non-processed foods, uh, good, healthy foods. I try to do organic, try to do non-GMO, but at the same time, I do very low carb, and I try to get a lot of fats in my diet.
Yeah. You and I followed a very similar trajectory on that, because the first thing I did before I started even getting into triathlon was cleaning up my diet and cleaning up my nutrition. Sorry, even I did it there. But that had a powerful, it was very powerful because I just recognized that there were so many options out there. There's keto, there's paleo, there's all these things, and every single one of them is telling you have to use this in order to get this result. And it's just like your BS meter just goes way up. So really the thing was that I followed, and it sounds like you were following a very similar path, was just make some healthier choices. Simple, healthier choices. What are the obvious things I could eliminate? What are the obvious things I can add? And the obvious things were, I'm gonna stop eating as much sugar, refined sugar, processed foods. I'm gonna eat more vegetables and things that grow from the ground or are enriched by the soil and the sun. And that was one of the biggest changes. And that really, it does have a dramatic effect. Simple changes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. It's just simplicity. And that sounds like it's a good result.
And then when you start running, what does the running community tell you? Oh, you got to get your carbs, do your carb loads, eat all this. But man, the carb loads and all that stuff, not good for my brain. Doesn't work for me.
Yeah. It's all about finding what works for you. And I love that you found that. And so with regard to you, the puppy dog duder and your future, what's next for you? Where you, I know you've got a 50-mile race coming up in a few weeks. You've done a variety of ultramarathons. What are the next big aspirations for you?
Well, I'll answer that with three things that keeps me going. And the first I talked about is this fear of regrets. That's my primary motivation. The second thing that keeps me going down this journey is what's my legacy? Legacy to my wife, legacy to my kids, to my community, to my family, to my friends, all of that. And I actually did an interesting exercise a couple months ago. So 2 or 3 years ago, I went through the exercise of writing your own eulogy. A lot of people talk about doing that. And I did that. I just sat down and I wrote my own eulogy. Okay, I'm sitting in the audience and I'm listening to someone give the eulogy. And I wrote it from my perspective. But then I also wrote it from, well, what's my wife going to say about me? How would she write my eulogy? And then I took it to the next level. And I did this exercise about 2 months ago. Is I imagined that I'm the only one in the audience and I'm the one delivering the eulogy. So I'm talking directly to me. No one else matters. What do I want my legacy to be for myself? And I did that a couple months ago, and that really planted some other powerful, motivating things in my mind to keep me going. What am I going to do I'm doing this for me. Yes, I have why. I want my wife to do this. I want my kids to be inspired. I want my grandkids to see grandpa doing stuff. I want them to go live their lives and all this. But again, it comes back to that me. So that exercise of write your eulogy from your own perspective, and you're the only one in the audience, and see how that changes. And that was an interesting exercise.
I like that. I love that exercise. And what did you find from that? What was the biggest takeaway, the aha moment from doing that eulogy?
When I did it a couple of years ago, the first time, and then I compared it to what I wrote a couple of months ago with a different perspective, I realized that the first one was all about what everyone else is going to think of me. And if I continue to live my life worried about what everyone else is going to think about me, that's just, it doesn't work. It will haunt you. you get so wrapped up in, well, I can't do this, I can't do that because this person's not going to like it, and we talked a little bit about that. So that was the difference, is that my first eulogy, I was worried about what everyone's going to think about me. But no, then when I did the other exercise, what am I going to think about me? And that became, it's very powerful. I'm the only one that can stop me from doing what I'm doing. If I want to stop moving forward, then it's going to be on me. If I want to keep moving, it's going to be on me. I'm the only one that can keep me going. I'm the only one that can stop me. And that concept's very powerful. So that legacy for myself is one of the things that keep me going. And then the third thing that keeps me going, Adam, is this concept, and I call it living in the challenge. And I'll share a bit of a personal story here. Last October of last year, I was scheduled to do a 50-mile trail race. I had been training for this thing. It was about 11,000 feet of vertical climb, a brutal, brutal race. I've been training for almost a year, signed up for this thing 8 months earlier, and been training and had my plan, my drop bags. I had someone pacing me for part of it and had the whole thing in place. It was down in Utah, and we were in Utah the night before the race, eating my last meal. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm feeling great. We get a phone call. My youngest daughter's husband was killed in a traffic accident. And you realize real fast what's important. And my wife was like, well, I'll go down with the daughter. You go run your race tomorrow. And I'm like, are you kidding? I am not running this race tomorrow. And so the next day I didn't get my run in. So that's one of those events that prevented me from getting my daily run in, right? But I obviously didn't run the race, and we had to take care of this situation. But I realized about 2 weeks after this had happened, and we had a funeral, and we're starting to move on from this and figure out what the future of my daughter and my 2 grandkids. I've got 2 grandkids that lost their dad. For that 2 weeks, I didn't have a race on the calendar. When I first signed up for my first half marathon, I'd always signed up for another race. Always had a race on the calendar. And for that 2 weeks, I didn't have anything on the calendar. And it made me feel uncomfortable. So my comfort zone had changed. I was in a comfort zone before. It was very uncomfortable to even think about running a race. But for 2 or 3 years there, my comfort zone changed to, I always have to have a challenge on the calendar, something pushing me forward. Live in the challenge. So for 2 weeks, I was out of my comfort zone, and that's a good feeling, is that my comfort zone changed to the point when I was out of it, I didn't have any race on the calendar. So I immediately signed up for another race and I felt better, right? So what keeps me going is to live in the challenge. And running is, and I'm not telling everyone they have to go out and start running marathons. What I'm saying is to have something to always challenge you. Mentally, write a book. Mentally, how can you challenge yourself? How can you challenge yourself to do something out of your comfort zone for your relationships? Just constantly challenge yourself. My daughter made me a sign: if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And I've adopted that. And 50 years of my life of just following between the lines, doing what everyone's supposed to be, doing what everyone's telling me I'm supposed to do, and so forth. I needed to challenge myself, do something different, and I'm loving it. I almost feel like I'm 6 years old kid right now, living a brand new life. What have I got to lose? Nothing. So what I'm trying to do, Adam, is how can I inspire and help that guy I used to be? And part of the issue of that is that guy I used to be is not listening to this podcast, right? They're watching sports, they're watching news, they're getting caught up in politics, they're eating a bowl of ice cream every night as they sit on the couch getting overweight. And so that's what I'm trying to do is how can I inspire them? So, I'm looking to do some speaking and some simple classes, and starting a couple of men's groups. Hey, meet me here at this time. We're going to go for a 30-minute walk. We're going to go for a 20-minute walk. And just these like men's groups to do little things like walk. And I call this the Goodrich Challenge. Let's start this Goodrich Challenge program. You need to change your life? Start here. I'm not going to give you 12 things to do. I'm going to give you one thing to do. Go for a walk. That's it. The rest will follow.
Yeah. Well, if you're, I will say that there may be people that are listening to this that need a tremendous change. Maybe not people that aren't wanting it yet or not really ready for it, but there may be people here that are just like, I'm so overwhelmed with where I want to be, the fact that I'm not where I want to be and I'm where I'm at now. And the fact that you've told them that the first step may just be go for a walk, I think is a powerful, powerful first step to get them in that direction. I think that's huge. And so I'm grateful for the message that you shared. I'm grateful that you took that first step and then you took that first step farther and are teaching people that all it takes is just that first step to get out there. And a small step it might be, but it can lead to tremendous, amazing results. Your book, Dude and Duder, How My Dog Saved My Life, is out now. Where can people find that? Amazon or anywhere else?
It's out on Amazon.
Awesome.
I should have the audio version of that book coming out soon. Hopefully by the time this podcast posts, the audio is out there. But it's recorded. I actually have a little bit of Duder in the audio version of it as well. But the book is as I was going through my journey here, Adam, and I was changing my inputs and I'm listening to all these ideas, my mind really got into this state of mind of looking for ideas. What are things that I can do? And so I started observing Duder. And these are all lessons I learned from my dog. Like little things. I'd take him out for a walk and I'd have a leash on him. And we'd hit the trail and I'd pop the leash off. What does he do? He takes off running as fast as he could go. Well, what were the leashes I was keeping on myself? What are the leashes holding me back? So the book is all these lessons that I learned from Duder that I have seriously tried to incorporate in my life.
I love that. Well, if you're listening to this show and that inspires you, go pick up Jeff's book, Dude and Duder, How My Dog Saved My Life. And where else can people find you, Jeff?
Best way is probably I'm on some social media. You can go to my website, dudeandduder.com. I have a newsletter you can subscribe to. I send a weekly newsletter. It actually comes from Duder. Duder has his own email address. So you get a Duder's Challenge weekly newsletter with thoughts on the mind and a challenge from Duder every week. So
that's awesome. I could see the next week's entry. Squeaky toy found. Super excited. That's awesome. No, but seriously, that's great. Go to dudeandduder.com. Sign up for Duder's email or newsletter, and yeah, check out Jeff. He's doing great things and exciting stuff to come. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. This was a pleasure, my friend.
It's been fun. Thanks, Adam.
All right. Well, for everyone else out there, we will see you next time. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining me today on Flow Over Fear. If you are liking this show, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be first to know when I drop a new episode, including interviews or trainings or dad jokes. That's right, dad jokes. Add a little levity to your life. And if you liked this episode in particular and you think somebody can get something from it, please share it with a friend. And that way we'll spread the message together. Thanks again for joining me today. We'll see you next time.